24 hours from right now, we will have live reports from southern Minnesota and North Iowa on the midterm election.
But a few days after we know the result, another story will likely emerge from election night: voter turnout.
And as KIMT News 3's Tyler Mickelson explains, there is one key demographic you may not see at your polling place.
Over the past few weeks, the message from candidates has been clear.
Every Iowan matters.
It's important to vote.
You have to be involved.
Every single vote matters.
Now, most of us already know the drill. Show up on election day, make sure that you're registered, then, of course, vote, make sure your vote is counted, and then leave. Of course, if you voted early, you don't have to worry about this. But there's one age group you may not see at the polls this year.
Some of my friends are just like, yeah, I'm not even going to go vote. I don't see the point.
People are kind of sick of seeing the same things happening in Washington and not seeing anything get done.
From what I see, a lot of people say that things aren't happening.
That frustration with lawmakers may push young adults away from the polls. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, voter turnout over the last 40 years for voters aged 18 to 24 is falling. In the 1960s, more than 50% of this age group voted. This year, that number is expected in the mid-30s. It's a trend politicians are well aware of and are hoping to fix.
All of those things matter to them, so they need to get involved.
If young voters don't take the time to vote, then they're going to let other people decide their future.
I think, this election is about them. It's about the future.
So what is it? Why have voter turnout numbers dropped nearly 15% over the past few decades?
The younger generation doesn't look at people, they look at the process.
And that process is failing, at least at the national level, in terms of bills passed into law. This year's 113th Congress is projected to finish their term as the least productive in history, only passing 142 bills heading into their August recess.
They see that something is, we'll say, corrupt or corrupted. They're far less likely to participate. They'll just walk away.
And as productivity continues to fall in Washington, so does the number of young voters showing up at the polls.
Problem with walking away and not voting is that if you don't vote, someone else will.
But don't count out young voters just yet. Success at the state level might keep them coming back.
Living, if you will, day to day with the pulse of the people. You don't get that in Washington.
State Senator Dave Sinjum from Rochester is right. With a stalemate in Washington, Iowa and Minnesota have had no problem passing laws. Just last session, Minnesota passed a minimum wage increase, medical marijuana legislation, and more money for building projects. In Iowa, they agreed on their own version of medical marijuana, support for military veterans, and a tuition freeze.
They want results. They want to see things. They're not, as older generations have been more patient, where they're, well, we'll give this person a chance, or maybe the next person will do better.
But don't worry, candidates. It appears some of those 18 to 24-year-olds have been listening. At least in Iowa and Minnesota, that is.
Every vote matters, especially state and county stuff are decided by very few votes.
I think that if a voter pays attention and wants to make something matter, that's every person's right is to vote.
You really can't expect anything to get done if you're not out there voting.
So even though the concern is still there,
if we give up on government, government will give up on us.
The doors will still open Tuesday morning. The choice to vote is yours.
And don't forget KIMT and KIMT.com, your place for election 2014 coverage. We will have results and live reports throughout the night.